Hi, folks. I'm Paul Ramsey, and I am joined by Fredric Ma, who is giving a 1-hour seminar at the 2017 NGH convention titled The Three Doors: The Creative Subconscious Evaporates Stress, Anxiety, and Anger. How are you, Fredric?
I'm doing great, Paul. How are you this morning?
I'm outstanding. I'm interested in this concept of the three doors. It sounds very mysterious. I want to know what are the three doors? It sounds like a novel.
It's an invitation to the subconscious to see things differently. You know, we fall into a pattern where something happens and I react, something happens and I react, to the point where whenever something happens, there's this reaction that follows that feels like the only thing I can do. Of course, that's not true. At any one moment in time, there are only like a million different things you could do. You don't do those things because they don't feel emotionally real. They don't feel emotionally genuine. This is a process to engage your subconscious so that other responses that are better, more productive, more beneficial will be available. It's a great process.
Nice. Very cool. How did you come upon this? Is it a collection of other work that you've sort of consolidated together, or did you just completely invent this yourself?
I think I ran across a version of a three-door process somewhere. I wish I could even give credit, but I can't. But just as a very, very basic metaphor, there are a lot of little basic kind of standard metaphors floating around. But this one is one I've really altered and changed over time, really adapted. And over several years, this has become my starting point with most clients. I treat a lot of, I'm a licensed mental health professional, by the way, so I use words like treat and diagnose. I know the NGH doesn't want us to
Right.
do that, but I actually am a national credentialed counselor. I treat a lot of anxiety, I treat a lot of stress, and this is typically where I start because this is designed to just knock, knock general anxiety down across the board, and then whatever is left standing, we can kind of go and deal with it. So it's a metaphor that has a number of different layers to it. Uh, there are several things that the subconscious is invited to do to create healing in terms of it. And it really is something that I've developed over time and just pulled it together as my
Sure.
go-to starting place with most things that deal with stress. So there you go.
Okay. How long have you been in practice?
Close to 20 years.
All right, great. That's awesome because this next question is sort of dependent on time a little bit. Would you agree that over the 20 years that you've been doing this kind of work, the level of stress and anxiety has just continued to go up? Like, aren't just more and more people like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I would agree with you, and I think that there are a couple of reasons for that. I think that we live our lives in terms of the stories we tell ourselves. They're these social narratives, and we live our lives in terms of culture tales, religious narratives, racial sagas, family history. All these big picture sort of narratives flow through our lives, and they affect individuals. They affect the way individuals see the world around themselves. They affect the story that I tell myself that gives my life meaning. And I think we have had increasing angst, stress, just in our social narrative over the last few years. And so I do think that that's increasing.
Yeah.
I might mention at this point that I'm an Ericksonian hypnotist, so I'm all about story, metaphor, and narrative. I also do narrative therapy, so this fits with that.
Yeah.
And the three doors is essentially an invitation to the subconscious to create a different story, to create a different narrative that's more healthy, beneficial, joyful.
Yeah. That's cool. I love, I mean, I have a bias, which I'll introduce. I mean, I was formerly educated to be an English teacher. And
Sure.
so, yeah, so I got out and I got out of college and I taught at a public school, 10th grade English for a while. And so I have a clear, favoring of the narrative part of our culture. And then I went back and I worked at a university and I ran a residence hall and I had 160 co-eds in my residence hall. And while I was at the university, we would have department meetings every week, and every year we would have a standard meeting where the folks from the counseling center came in and sort of coordinated, like, what are we seeing in our buildings versus what are they seeing in the office? And, and every year they came in and said, the numbers are higher this year than last year. Like it was a clear trend that just more and more young people in this case were coming in, and mostly what they were coming in and reporting was anxiety, was stress and anxiety. They didn't have the tools to manage their stress and anxiety, and it was really impacting their college experience. And that was back 1999 to 2004. And then I got into hypnotism. And so like, I just so resonate with what you're saying, because I see just more and more and more people who are really, I call it fearful, and then, that's really working itself out as stress and anxiety. And
fear, anger, anxiety. Your body basically only has one way to go up and go down. So, fear and excitement are two sides of the same coin. Anger is the default human response to stress.
Yeah.
Toddlers get angry and they do it great. You don't have to teach them how to do it. As you grow up, you kind of realize that doesn't work so well. So I always felt like anger management was kind of a miserable idea. Managing anger seems really bad. But if we can get in place different approaches to handle the stress on the front end so the anger never happens, then that's a lot better. Yeah. So the Three Doors is about that. With something like PTSD, kind of playing off of what you were just saying, trauma is actually very common, but clinical traumatic responses are actually very rare. Most people that encounter trauma, they don't like it, it's bad, but they're resilient, they handle it well, they're able to integrate it into their lives, and they're able to move forward. But I think we're seeing more and more post-traumatic responses that are clinical, because there's this narrative of, if you have trauma, then of course you're going to have, this PTSD stuff that happens afterward. Right. And that social narrative creates more of the malady, creates more of the problem. There are a lot of different ways to illustrate that, but that'd be a longer interview and discussion.
Well, I think just in the past year, I was introduced to the concept of post-traumatic growth.
Okay.
I had never seen that. I was reading Angela Duckworth's book on grit, and she dedicated her career to looking at why some people are more resilient than others. And, she, in one part of the book, just really focused on this idea that there seems to be a cultural thing that we only really talk about post-traumatic stress, but there's a significant portion of people that when they experience trauma, they don't go that way. They somehow bloom from it.
We have sayings for this: when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Right.
We can go back with Nietzsche: that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger.
Right.
When something happens that throws everything up in the air, that blows everything up, there are a lot of different ways to respond to that. But I do think even for people that have experienced, for instance, trauma, and it's been devastating, and you've got something clinical that happens afterward, that still can become a catalyst for more growth, for turning things around and handling things differently.
Yeah.
My key notion is that emotion, not information, drives behavior. Yes. Hypnosis is powerful because it's a process of emotional change. And when you run into something like a trauma, that's got it's like there's a lot of gasoline in the tank. Now, a lot of gasoline in the tank is bad if it blows up, but, a lot of gasoline in the tank can be really good if you want to go far.
Yeah.
And so taking emotion, even negative emotion, and being able to channel it and use it, I think is really helpful. And as I think about it, that again is something that's involved with the Three Doors metaphor, where it is inviting people to see things differently than they did in the past at a core gut emotional level. I think that fits in well.
Yeah. You guys, look I'm telling you, Fredric Ma is quick. Do you hear this guy? He's got the metaphors. He's got the images. He's on it. Spend an hour with this guy and get some learning going on. That's why we come to the convention, right? We want to be exposed to other practitioners who can share. 20 years. This is the kind of thing that really, seriously, this is why you go to the convention, is to spend time with people like this. So make sure that you check out the Three Doors Friday, August 11th at 4 p.m. and really strongly consider hanging out with Fredric and learning while you're at the convention. Fredric, thank you for making this time for me.
Paul, it's almost like I know what I'm doing, and I really appreciate having the time with you. Thank you very much, and I think people will love the 3 doors, so it'll be a great process. It's a specific process. I want to stress that this is a specific metaphor to learn that you can go and take and use in your practice, so it'll be really good. We also look at the brain physiology of why it works and stuff, so it's going to be really nice. I think this one will be interesting, practical. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I agree with everything you said. That's definitely the sense that I get from this. So thank you for putting this together and for doing this seminar. I think it's going to be fantastic. I'll see you in August, okay?
Thank you, Paul.
All right. Be well.
Thank you.